Jalasi. Cape Breton University has a long tradition of excellence in the arts, music, dance, and theater, as well as a deep-rooted and close bond with the Ilnu people of Unamagi. I am pleased to be here today to see the bond grow even deeper through this wonderful day of performances arranged by the Center for Sound Communities and their tireless director, Dr. Marcia Ostashevsky. Marcia is a strong champion for the arts and for Ilnu culture at CBU and in the broader academic community. It is my privilege to call her a colleague and a friend. Please enjoy all this event has to offer. Have a wonderful day, and we hope you will come back to visit us at CBU again soon. Walalio.
Thank you, Sean. That was very kind. We also have a brand new Dean of the School of Arts and Social Sciences here, Dr. Carolyn Kraber, and I'd like her also to come to speak for a few minutes. Please welcome Carolyn.
Thank you very much, Marcia. Oh, one really cannot see anything. Well, a very good afternoon, everybody. As the interim dean of the School of Arts and Social Sciences, I'm delighted to welcome you to All My Relations here at the Boardmore Theatre of Cape Breton University. We can expect this to be an afternoon of stimulating and I'm sure wonderful performances. Hosted by CBU Center for Sound Communities, All My Relations is related to a research project coming out of the University of Alberta, funded by the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, entitled Singing the Circle, and it is also part of the Songs and Stories of Migration and Encounter community-engaged arts-based workshop program and research creation project hosted jointly by local community groups and the research team led by Marcia Ostashevsky here at CBU. This is the final event of an exciting weekend featuring an in-school workshop delivered by visiting music, dance scholars, educators across the CBRM, a teacher professional development workshop offered by these same visiting scholars, and the choral workshop held yesterday as part of World Singing Day. Today's performances include new music learned at the choral workshop and new pieces created during 6 weeks of in-community, youth-led arts-based workshops in 4 communities of Cape Breton, Whitney Pier, Member 2, Le Centre Communautaire Étoile de l'Acadie, and Chetty Camp. Cape Breton University recognizes the importance of place and encourages research and creative work that directly engages with and builds on our local communities, cultures, and traditions, while at the same time collaboratively exploring new possibilities and innovations. The Songs and Stories of Migration and Encounter project is one excellent example of this type of work. I'm very excited to see, well actually I don't see you, but I imagine you here. So many colleagues and community members, and I wish I wish us a most joyful experience this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolyn. So now for the shorter person, we'll just move the mic down a bit. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Songs and Stories of Migration and Encounter project. It's going to be the focus of the first half of our show today. But before I do that, we're going to have a special little treat. So I'm going to ask for the house lights to come up.
Under the stars we all are one. Now
So that was a bit of a taster of what's to come in the second half. The Choral Workshop participants who were working all day yesterday, we've now known each other for, I think, about 36.35 hours, and somehow managed to pull together exquisitely beautiful music that we'll be so happy to share with you afterward. So I'll tell you a little bit about Singing the Circle. I'll tell you a little bit more later. Right now I'm going to talk about songs and stories of migration and encounter. So as Clifford mentioned, we are at a time when there's a confluence of so much in our world, issues that are pulling at the hearts and spirits of so many of us, locally and globally. The Truth and Reconciliation Committee, we're on the heels of that, addressing the legacy of residential schools in Canada. The migrants and refugees around the world, displaced persons in different continents. And at this time, in 2017, we're also celebrating Canada's 150 years of Confederation. It's in conjunction with celebrations of 150 years of Confederation and with funding from various government programs that young people from across Cape Breton Island were invited to participate in a performance creation project to explore narratives and experiences of migration and encounter. So youth ages 7 to 19 from disparate communities, including Membertou, Chedicamp, and that's an Acadian and Francophone community, Étoile de l'Acadie, a French immersion community in the city of Sydney, and Whitney Pier, a diverse community of immigrant cultures, primarily from Barbados, Italy, Newfoundland, Poland, Croatia, Ukraine, as well as England and Ireland, and others. They all met, these youth, all met in their own communities over the past 6 weeks. They first listened to the elders that met with them, share their stories, and they were supported by a group of Cape Breton University undergraduate applied theater students. They had help from Cape Breton-born dancer and choreographer Thomas Colford, and a visiting Banting postdoctoral research fellow who came from Toronto, Dr. Heather Fitzsimmons-Frey. And in this hall, they were led by the Centre for Sound Communities postdoctoral research fellow, Dr. Ons Barnett. Together, they created new pieces grounded in song, dance, film, including interactive multimedia technologies like 360-degree cameras and virtual reality, and spoken word. This creative process took place over 6 weeks of workshops in each of these locations, and in today's events, we're going to see these performances here in the Boardmore Theatre. Now, let's give a warm welcome to the very first group of performers from the Centre Communautaire Étoile de l'Acadie.
peuple fier de nos montagnes, de nos rivières. Entourés par la mer, nous sommes un peuple fier. Gaelic, francophone, migrant, anglophone, écossais, irlandais, acadien, autochtone, Cape-Breton, Nouvelle-Écosse, Canada, 150 ans, Canada, 150 ans, Canada, 150 ans. Nous sommes un peuple fier de nos montagnes, de nos rivières, entourés par la mer. Nous sommes un peuple fier. Nous sommes un peuple fier de nos montagnes, de nos rivières, entourés par la mer. Nous sommes un peuple fier. Nous sommes un peuple fier de nos montagnes, de nos rivières, entourés par la mer. Nous sommes un peuple fier. Nous sommes un peuple fier de nos montagnes, de nos rivières, entourés par la mer. Nous sommes un peuple fier.
My God, what energy they have. So, the first part of that performance, as you might have picked up, is a tribute to Scottish ancestral music, and it was performed by the Celtic Soul Brothers, Ewan and Mayo. Woo! They were accompanied by Alexandria and Jay, who represented 18th century soldiers who were stationed in Unamagi, which was also known at that time as Ile Royale, and now is more recently Cape Breton Island. The second part of the performance showcased Athena, whose contemporary dance moves were choreographed by Cape Breton-born dancer and choreographer Thomas Colford. And if you were listening to what she was dancing to, that is actually a dance beat that was created by yet another Étoile de l'Acadie dancer, who was here in spirit because we recorded her footsteps and fed that through that electronic music. Her name is Madison. And at the end of the performance, Jay, Mel, Ewan, and Alexandria came back on stage after having shed their weapons of war to sing and dance instead a proud song of peace and Cape Breton strength, Entouré par la mer, otherwise known as Surrounded by the Sea. We thank our community partners at Étoile de l'Acadie for providing a space and helping to facilitate these workshops, especially to Lisa and Janice. Also, we heard Lisa's voice. It was in a bit on the soundtrack, so that was kind of neat. Now, they're readying themselves, but I'd like to introduce the second group from Menelik Hall in Sydney's Whitney Pier. Whitney Pier is a community that is celebrated for its tremendous diversity of cultures, including Barbadians, Poles, Ukrainians, Croats, Jamaicans, Italians, Jews, Acadians, Hungarians, as well as Scottish and Irish and English and all kinds of other ancestries. All of these people came to live in the pier, many in the late 1800s, primarily to work in the steel plant. When I started to come to Cape Breton in 2008 to do research here, I came especially to work with the Ukrainian community. It's the only Ukrainian church east of Montreal. And the Ukrainian community is in the heart of Whitney Pier. And part of the research I did had me visit the Beaton Institute, which is here at the university, and it's in fact the provincial archives for the region. And I spoke with one of the archivists. She was telling me a little bit about the history of the area. And she said that she figured that Cape Breton was in fact one of the most culturally diverse places in Canada, particularly at the beginning of the 1900s, because so many people had come from around the world to work in the steel plants and in the mines in outlying areas. Also, in 1903, there was a book published about the history of the island. And there's a really nice visual in that book that I like to show when I go around the world to present the research about Cape Breton that I do with communities here. And so if you can imagine a map of the world, but at the very center is Cape Breton. And that's its rightful place, right? We have shipping lines that come to and from in every imaginable direction. That's what was happening in the early 1900s to and through Cape Breton. People and goods came and went from Cape Breton. Steel went to the States and to other places in the world. A lot of New York, I understand, was built using Cape Breton-made steel. So this place was a hub of activity. It was a major industrial center. and there were all kinds of cultural activities going on, singing and dancing and all kinds of other celebration too. So let's check with Ons. Are we about ready to go? Yes. Yes. Then I think I'll exit in a moment. Let's please give our performers from Menelik Hall a welcome as they present a piece they call Stories of Our Histories.
Welcome to the pier, all my heroes. Stories been told from hours of old.
Stories of our history. Stories of our history. Stories of our history. Stories of our history.
You come from town and you hit the path. You know you in the pier when you smell that gas. Calypso music from dusk till dawn. The whole community singing along.
Stories of our history. Stories of our history. Stories of our history. Stories of our history.
Riches of the past we cherish like gold. Riches of the past we cherish like gold. Stories been told from hours of old. Riches of the past we cherish like gold. Welcome to the pier, my heroes. Riches of the past we cherish like gold.
Stories of our history. Stories of our history. Stories of our history. Stories of our history.
You come from town and you hit the path. You know you in the pier when you smell that gas. Calypso music from dusk till dawn. The whole community singing along.
Daylight come and we wanna go home. Daylight come and we wanna go home. Work the banana boat
Thanks so much. So let me tell you a little bit about stories of our histories. It was created by youth who met at Menelik Hall, who were inspired by the stories they heard from their elders, including Kaz Savitsky and the Reverend Phyllis. This song tells of how heroes from the past are still a great influence in the lives of Whitney Pier youth today. Dante Gugu performed a rap. You saw him, came in. Hunter, Alyssa, and Brianna were singing, and they were all accompanied by Michael on guitar. And I have to say, I'm getting a bit teary. Eddie Paris was the man sitting in guitar. Eddie Paris, sorry, on bass, I don't know actually how old he is, but just to give you an idea, Eddie Paris is very well known as one of the last living Cape Breton Calypsonians. I wonder how many people know that, in fact, Cape Breton's Whitney Pier was a hotbed of calypso not so many decades ago. We're so pleased that he was able to spend time supporting our youth in their creative journey. Thank you. The last of our youth groups for Songs and Stories of Migration and Encounter met in Member 2's Heritage Park. Member 2 is one of 5 Mi'kmaq Reserve communities on Unama'ki. This group was led by Shailene Paul, a local youth worker, activist, and musician. Elder Shirley Christmas also attended each of the workshops. She shared songs and stories. She fostered songwriting and lyric writing skills. She's a prolific in her own right. She's a poet, a published poet, and she'll share a poem with us tonight. Clifford Paul, Shailene's father, who helped us open today's event, joined the group a few weeks ago to provide guidance and care as well. So we'll meet with each of the youth in a moment, but without further ado, let's please welcome this group to share a piece they call the Salute Song.
New's the sound of my heart, stirring emotions long forgotten by its own. For deep within my spirit, a battle takes hold, struggling to be known, to be heard. New is the sound that my spirit boldly speaks. I'll not be silenced, nor will I accept defeat. My spirit now sings, and my feet dance to the heart's promising beat.
Just as the rest of our youth group participants come up for a final bow, I'd like to introduce the performers who just presented a piece. So this song that was just performed was created in a song circle through collaboration between youth and elders, most of whom live in Membertou, but not all. It's based on the traditional Mi'kmaq hand drum rhythm, and with the blessing of the elders, the youth decided to add ukuleles, piano, and electric bass. The youth in this group, everybody just give us a wave when I call out your name, okay? Include Jada, who is singing and playing her hand drum. Noah was singing and providing percussion with a shaker. Woo! Haley, Shayla, Gabby were singing. Yeah. Janessa and Bria were playing the ukulele and singing. And Dana was playing his electric guitar. Ons, our postdoctoral research fellow at the Center for Sound Communities. Hello. In the dark. He was also playing some keyboard and guitar as well. So Shirley, the elders who are participating included Shirley, who was sharing her poetry and singing. Clifford Paul provided backup vocals and joined us with some percussion. Now, please help me thank, in all the best ways, our really special sister in all of this, Shailene Paul. This is a really deep, heartfelt thanks. Coming to work with the Indigenous communities locally has been a real gift to me as a scholar and to someone who walks on this earth. And Shailene joined us for the pilot project in June on Multicultural Day here in the Center for Sound Communities. And it's just a blessing to meet you, Shailene. Thank you so much for helping us and working so closely with us and through the youth and guiding us forward in such a good way. Thank you. So, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to applaud for these young people, and our elders too. So, while this brings our performance of songs and stories of migration and encounter to the end for today, the youth and the research team working out of the new Center for Sound Communities here at Cape Breton University have prepared 5 interactive multimedia stations out in the foyer of this theater where you can share your songs and stories and experiment with virtual reality technologies. You can watch some of the documentaries and the creative processes of the workshops. And we invite you also to help yourself to light refreshments after the end of the concert. You've been hearing a lot about the Center for Sound Communities. I'm just going to show you this beautiful new booklet. The Center for Sound Communities was a facility that was opened 1 year ago. So this booklet celebrates a year in review. You can see colorful pictures of all the different kinds of activities, including Multicultural Day this past June that was in partnership with the CBRM for a big celebration here that brought nearly 2,000 people to campus. And it was just the pilot project of this wonderful 6-week workshop process. In any case, the Center for Sound Communities is funded by the Canada Foundation for Innovation and the Nova Scotia Research and Innovation Trust. And those two funders, together with Cape Breton University, helped us to create the Center for Sound Communities, which is a digital arts and humanities research laboratory which supports the collaborative, community-engaged research of the kind that you witnessed this afternoon. So please now, let's give a hand to our performers, and thank you. Thank you all, and now we'll allow everyone a 15-minute break. Only a 15-minute break, so if you're watching on live stream, join us in 15 minutes exactly. We'll start again, and if you'd like to get up and stretch your legs, please do so now. Thank you.
Sister did an interesting thing in that she, when she was finished with high school, she joined the congregation of Notre Dame, the religious order, and they earmarked her for leadership in culture and in the arts in the Sydney District School Board. And she studied all that at the best schools in the United States, at Columbia University and the surrounding institutes. And then when she finished there, getting her master's degrees, she did many workshops with some of the leaders in choral music. She even studied the voice, the production of music. And she was very conscious as a director that people be kind to their voice. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about how we got started with the Cape Breton Choral under Sister Rita Clare's leadership. It was a surprise to me. I was a new teacher at the former Xavier College to see how many of the new students each fall wanted to sing in a chorale. They wanted to sing in an organized chorale. And so I talked to a number of friends about that. One of the others was here today, or is here today, Bernard Levere. Bernard and myself were members of the St. FX Men's Glee Club. Bernie was very important in that he was the accompanist, and he was an assistant to Ed Murray, who at that time was leading the music department at St. FX. And then I talked to a few other people. Barbara Smith, who's here today, and I think Claire Rogers. I talked to Claire about it. What could we do? And if you're going to start a chorale, you have to have a membership, you have to have a director, and you have to have some music. So we agreed that Sister Rita Clare would be a wonderful director if we could get her. And I was convinced that she would be wonderful, and so I approached her and several others, and Sister had the new job as directing the arts program in the Sydney School Board. She was busy, and she was new, and so I went to see her, and she hesitated. She thought about it, which is what she should have done. She did that, and then I went to see her the second time, and got her commitment to be the leader of our chorale. That was a wonderful thing for us. It was the signal that we should then get the people to sing in it, which was quite a task. We sent out a message to all those students who were interested in that, and asked them to come to a meeting. And I think Sister saw the first challenge that she had when she met with that group. That group was not only students, but members of the faculty. The first line of support was the students. The second was the faculty. There were veterans of the faculty who saw that it was an important thing to do the singing. And but they weren't singers. They were chemists and physicists and French teachers and so on. But Sister said she would work, and then we had our first practice. And she didn't quit. She didn't quit then. She just rolled up her sleeves and said, we're going to learn this business of choral singing.
Should we listen to some of it now?
Pardon?
Shall we listen to some of it now?
Do we want to hear some of it now? I want to ask you.
Thank you so much, Charles. I unfortunately didn't ever have the opportunity to meet Sister Rita Clare, but this story that you've told about her today and her impact in the community and how the chorale started is so important. Thank you for sharing that. And apparently, as I've just heard, the chorale had a very close history with Cape Breton University, which used to be a college of St. Francis Xavier University, right? Well, I've got some really great news to share because next year, we're going to have a brand new course at Cape Breton University that I'm going to lead, and it's going to be a course where you can come and sing in vocal ensembles. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. But it's also in large part to a colleague at St. Francis Xavier University who is the brand new director of the Cape Breton Choral, and his name is Ryan Billington. Ryan is the new director of the chorale. He's it's a celebrated local choir, as Dr. McDonald was telling us. He travels each week from Antigonish, where he teaches vocal and other music studies at St. Francis Xavier University. And he's been a tremendous partner in mentoring me in terms of creating the new course that will be taught in January 2019 on vocal ensembles. And a wonderful partner in getting the singing activities that have been happening this week going. So without further ado, I'd like to pass the mic to Ryan Billington.
Thank you, Marcia. And thank you, Charles, for the wonderful story. It's a great honor and privilege to continue Sister Rita's work with this long-standing choir. Now we're in our 45th season. Wow. And to be continuing the work that Sister Rita worked so hard at in promoting music education and developing choral music and singing together, which is one of the reasons why some of us have joined this wonderful Singing the Circle project with Dr. Ardell Reese and Marcia. And so it's a wonderful opportunity for us to join in this event. We're going to sing two songs for you today, which will also be included in our upcoming concert program on November 11th called Go Forth Upon Thy Journey, which is a reflection on Remembrance Day. And in that reflection concert, we will feature some of the beloved repertoire that Sister Rita worked on with the chorale, and as well some new repertoire. We'll explore in that reflection themes of love and loss. And so the first one that we're going to sing for you today is the Irish Blessing, which begins, "May the road rise to meet you, may the wind be ever at your back." And then we will continue with the Oscar Peterson Hymn to Freedom.
Thanks again to the chorale for those wonderful songs. And in a moment, I'm going to ask Ardell Reese, Dr. Ardell Reese, to tell you a little bit about the Singing the Circle project. It's going to be the focus of the remainder of our concert today. But if I may, I'd like to tell you first about Dr. Reese. Dr. Ardell Reese is a professor of music at the University of Alberta Augustana faculty. She teaches musicianship, theory, conducting, and choral literature classes. And she conducted the Augustana Choir for a decade and founded Man's Choir, the Augustana Men's Choir, in 2006. She's a staunch advocate for Canadian choral music. She's commissioned and premiered new choral works from established and emerging Canadian composers that the Augustana Choir has performed in national and international settings. With a strong musical and pedagogical foundation established at the Zoltán Kodály Pedagogical Institute in Hungary, Ardell has been on faculty as an oral musicianship specialist at the Kecskemét Kodály Conservatory, the 2005 International Kodály Seminar, Wilfrid Laurier University, the University of Calgary, and the University of Alberta Faculty of Education. She is the lead scholar on the Singing the Circle project, and two other scholars and performers have joined us this week as part of the Singing the Circle project. If I may briefly introduce Kathy Benedict, she'll be singing with us in a moment. She joined the music education faculty at Western University in 2015 as faculty and director of research. Her interests are in facilitating music education environments in which students take on perspective of justice-oriented citizens. And Canadian pianist Roger Admiral, whom you'll see on stage in a moment, performs solo and chamber music repertoire spanning the 18th through the 21st century. He's known for his dedication to contemporary music, and he also coaches contemporary chamber music at the University of Alberta. Two other special musicians will join us today, and they include Stuart McNeil of the beloved Baron McNeils of Cape Breton Island, and also Kimberly Fraser on fiddle. Please join me in welcoming them.
Is this... It's now on. Thank you so much, everyone. The choir is going to come back, and we wanted to make sure that we started our portion of the program with singing, because that's what we've been doing the last 38 hours, I think, with this particular group. It's certainly a privilege to be here in Cape Breton and to collaborate with Dr. Marcia Ostaszewski and Sound Communities, Cape Breton University, Dr. Kathy Benedict, who is from Western University, who will introduce her later when she comes back down. Leslie Ann Andrews from the Cape Breton Victoria Regional School Board, classroom music teachers and students, Ryan Billington and the wonderful Cape Breton Chorale, Dr. Roger Admiral, who I actually collaborate with every day because he's my husband, Kimberly Fraser, Stuart McNeil, and all who have participated in the musical events this last weekend and throughout the last 6 weeks, from what I can tell with the performances that we heard earlier today. How many knew that yesterday was World Singing Day? And everything's looking kind of dark there. Can we get some house? Put up your hand if you knew that yesterday was World Singing Day. Of course, everyone back there. But it was. Yes. And for those of you who don't know about World Singing Day, this is the 5th anniversary of World Singing Day. It's been happening since 2012. And the mission of World Singing Day is to unite people all over the world by singing. And supposedly yesterday, on 7 continents in 26 countries, 3,750,000 people celebrated World Singing Day. So that's pretty cool. And so today we began our portion of the concert with the setting of a quote by Renaissance composer William Byrd: "Since singing is so good a thing, I wish that all would learn to sing." And in connection with World Singing Day, I strongly believe that, like Earth Day, which is usually celebrated on April 22nd, every day should be World Singing Day. Do you all agree? Yes, please. And I'm going to have please come back. This is your opportunity to come back, okay? Please come back. I feel lonely up here. And because yesterday was World Singing Day, I think that we all have to sing a little bit of something. And you probably have heard this song before, and it goes something like this. I'm gonna sing till my spirit says sing. I'm gonna sing till my spirit says sing. I'm gonna sing till my spirit says sing. And now we've got a bit of a change. Every day is World Singing Day. Got it? Let's sing it together. You ready? A 1, a 2, and a here we. I'm gonna sing till my spirit says sing. I'm gonna sing till my spirit says sing. I'm gonna sing till my spirit says sing. Every day is World Singing Day. I'm gonna sing till my spirit says sing. Hallelujah! Sing till my spirit says sing. I'm gonna sing till my spirit says sing. Every day is World Singing Day. So that was World Singing Day. So that's what we were celebrating yesterday. But also, as Marcia had mentioned, we've all been part of a project called Singing the Circle. And our singers in this final portion of the concert, of this showcase, are the most eager, willing, and committed singers that I've ever met, I think. And they actually, perhaps I didn't say this yesterday, but this was the first Singing the Circle workshop that we have done. This is a very new project. And our goal with Singing the Circle workshops is to bring generations, multi-generations together to sing. And they're designed to explore and celebrate the basic, and I might add, the miraculous human act of singing and the artistic and educational use of the human voice within the circle of life from the time of birth to the end of life. Over the last, 38 hours, we have explored the wonders of singing and examined immense benefits of singing, from what it does to our bodies, to what it does to our brains, our emotions, and our spirit. In this group, our Singing the Circle participants represent, I think, about 15 different choirs in the region, which is pretty astounding. And many of our singers sing at least 4 nights a week. She sings 4 nights a week. And as my husband Roger said to her, he said, well, what about the other 3 nights? We have such committed people, and also we have a number of generations involved. And so we have here Avery, who's 9, okay, and Avery's mom is there too. So if we're talking about generations, this is awesome. And then we also have Verena here, who, did I get this wrong? Please tell me. Nevaeh. I memorized it yesterday morning, and then it just got worse and worse after that. So Nevaeh, who is 11, and 11 is actually, she is from a music teacher, Melissa, here. I got your name right, yay me. And so we have these generations involved, and we also needed to have grandparents involved too, and we also have people, we have someone who's 9, and then we have someone who is older than 9 here. So anyway, and everything in between. And when we think about singing the circle, and like I mentioned before, we like to think about singing at the beginning of birth. The first cry of an infant can be a musical thing. And then also we think about what happens at the end of life. And I was really thrilled to know that there are representatives in this choir from the Comfort Choir that works in a palliative setting in the community, which is really, really awesome and so fitting with our Singing the Circle project. So our second piece that we did with some movement, because you know that singing is a sport, we have to use our bodies. Our second piece was a musical and physical representation of singing the circle. Round and round, and of course we've been singing rounds. I won't say ad nauseum, but we've been singing a lot of rounds. So round and round we go, we hold each other's hands and weave our lives in a circle. The day is done, the dance goes on. So our final set of pieces that we would like to share with you are melodies and arrangements of Canadian folk songs. This year has been a year to continue to examine who we are as Canadians 150 years after Confederation. Our 4 songs will include a piece drawn from an Indigenous tradition with a place close to where I come from, out west. It's a Sioux lullaby. We will then sing a Nova Scotia spiritual, and a folk song that simply comments on the challenges of our climate based on a Robert Service poem. And then we will end with a spirited French-Canadian folk song, Vive la Canadienne. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you to all. And I just want to encourage you to sing the circle and remember that World Singing Day is every single day of our lives. Okay, when you get up tomorrow morning, how are you? Yes, very good, Roger. Okay. Have 2 big books. It's on page 48. We all have to be on the same page. The first rule of choral singing Started us off with. The text is so beautiful, I need to read it to you. From the stars our bodies come. Under the stars we all are one. Now into deepest night we go, alone yet not alone. And then we're going to move into another canon. Round and round the world is turning, turning always round to morning, and from morning into night. World Singing Day every day.
From the
to reach for a microphone, and as I do that, I ask all of tonight's presenters to come up on stage for a final closing. Thank you.
Cool, I guess, yeah.
Hope the microphone is going to turn on in a second. I'm pretty sure. Oh, is it? Good. Thank you, Sarah Kate. I think that was quite a pile of papers I had today, so thanks everyone for bearing with me. Thank you, Ardell, for leading us in that wonderful choral performance. Speakers, please come on up stage. Everyone who was part of tonight, please make your way on stage while I talk. We have a great many thanks, and I do think it's important to thank everyone by name. I'll begin with our sponsors, and they include especially Interaction Canada and Canada 150, Community Foundations Canada, and Nova Scotia Communities Culture and Heritage, as well as Cape Breton Regional Municipality Festivals and Events. These were our funders. Member to Youth Centre, member to Heritage Park as well. Singing the Circle, Cycle de Chant, that was the funding from the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council for our choral project. Alberta Foundation for the Arts was also a partner in that, and as was the Worth Centre for Austrian and Central European Studies. Canada Foundation for Innovation and Nova Scotia Research and Innovation Trust fund the Centre for Sound Communities. Right, as I mentioned, also the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada, which are part of my own Canada Research Chair. My second page of thanks are to our community collaborators, Clifford Paul, thank you, and Shailene Paul, Jeff Ward, they were in member two. Lillian Marsman and Chantal Demeter Reed were our partners at the African Nova Scotia Affairs Office here in Sydney. Sean Bethke, Dean of the Library and Multicultural Learning, and Carolyn Kraber, the Acting Dean of Social Sciences and Arts here at the university. Also Ardell and Kathy, Roger, Stuart, and Kimberly for the choral piece. The Cape Breton Choral gave us extra time. Many of their members were part of our choral workshop, but then other people too came out today just to perform for you. And Ryan Billington for his directorship. Many of the choral workshop participants that were part of our events yesterday weren't able to come today, but we do want to thank them as well. Dr. Charles McDonald, thank you for coming and for sharing with us your story about Sister Rita Clare. To all of our youth participants, you heard their names earlier today, thank you again. I hope you're on stage. And I'd like to say a special thanks to the dancers who joined the Member 2 group really in the last day or two only of the workshops, and their names are Unik Ward, Raven Nicholas, and Skyla Paul. Let's please give them a hand. Also, I'd like to thank all of our sound community staff. We had a crew that came just for this weekend. They did a bunch of training earlier in the week. That is, they were able to benefit from the training that's provided with the amazing array of technologies that we have at the center. So they include Victoria, Sarah, Noah, Riley, Liam, Cameron, and Brea. Those are the people who are hosting the interactive multimedia stations outside. Please do visit them. Indeed. They will help us continue the party yet until 5 o'clock. And then there are a host of staff that were working with us since before the pilot project in June on Multicultural Day, through the summer and up until now, and they'll help us close out the project too. They include Brittany Erickson, who's our event manager, Naomi McLeod, another manager, Laura Mick, a station manager. She's responsible for organizing all of those interactive multimedia stations. Will Rutledge has been helping us as a sound and stage assistant. Chris Jones works at the university, and he is our live stream technician today. Darren Power was helping him on camera, and so was Professor Michael McDonald. He is active in many of our Center for Sound Communities projects, so thank you to them. Ons is our postdoctoral research fellow. Thanks again, Ons, for wrangling us all. And working with him, I mentioned Thomas Colford, who's a youth facilitator, a dance choreographer, and he was our stage manager, key wrangler today, I have to say. It was wonderful. Sarah Kate McKinnon joined us as a stage manager today. Thank you for that. And Malcolm McMillan as our sound engineer. My thanks, of course, to all of you for joining us today, for all the parents and grandparents who were part of making sure the youth were able to participate in the workshops, and also for the elders who participated. And in fact, I'd like to give the last word of tonight's presentation to Elder Clifford Paul, so that he can help us, as he helped us open in a good way, that he can also help us close tonight's performance in a good way.
Thank you very much. I want to personally thank everybody for bringing their gifts, both on and off the stage. We always say when the youth and elders come together, and those of us that are lucky enough to sit in between, a magic happens. It certainly happened today, and everybody should be very proud of what they had brought. All the gifts came together so that we will be able to provide a performance, brighten the hearts and minds of everybody that were here today. So I ask the Creator to watch over us, to keep providing the beauty of our cultures that we're able to share, and that we're able to continue to share our gifts in positive ways. I ask the Creator also to watch over us in our journeys back to where we have to go, and that we arrive safely, and that we keep in our hearts and in our minds the joys of what today had brought. So I'm very proud and very thankful, and on behalf of my community member too, and on behalf of the Mi'kmaq community in Unama'ki, I want to thank everybody here for doing such a fine job. Thank you very much.
And a final thanks to Todd Hiscock, the manager of the Boardmore Theatre, for sharing this space with us today so that we could all come together in such a good way. Thank you and good evening.